Hello class, this is Demetrius Wilson with Business Marketing. We're now on Chapter 14, one chapter to go. Chapter 14 talks about marketing globally, something that is very important these days and has become much more important than it was in the past, and it's something that we really need to focus on, especially if you have a company that is either gone global or intends to go global in the near and distant future. Learning outcomes for this chapter, not too many, short and sweet. Describe globalization and the major benefits and challenges it possesses or poses for multinational organizations penetrating global markets. So you have companies that do business in companies that do business in multiple countries. Those are those multinational companies, and I work for a multinational country, and there are a lot of different things that you have to think about. You have to think about culture, you have to think about geographics and demographics and things of that nature. So it's not just as easy as saying, hey, I want to go national, I want to go global. You have to think things through and have actual strategy. Describe common approaches used by organizations to compete successfully on a global scale. All right, so you might have a good model out there that says, hey, this is how a computer component company would do business on a global scale, and you can follow their lead, or you can be a trendsetter and follow your own. Explain the importance of understanding how demographic, cultural, and institutional factors shape the global marketing environment. And all those things pertain to your global marketing environment, but they also pertain to your domestic environment as well. Economic growth. We're going to talk about the different types of nations in terms of economic growth. We're in an industrialized nation. They have economies characterized by a healthy climate for private enterprise or business, and a consumer orientation, meaning that the business climate focuses on meeting the consumer's long-term wants and needs. If you're a company and you want to survive, you need to focus on meeting the client's long-term and short-term as well wants and needs. Economic growth for less developed nations, or LDCs, also known as least developed countries, have extensive poverty, low per capita income, right? So they have poverty, the income is low per person, and standards of living is also low. Low literacy rate, so that not as many people can read, and very limited technology, which prohibits them from furthering their education as well. Developing nations are those that are making the transition from economies based on agriculture, right? So it used to be farmers, everything mostly based on farmers and farming and raw material productions like, lumber from cutting down trees, to industrialized economies like the United States. They exhibit rising levels of education, right? So now people are getting more and better education. Technology is being either passed down or they're getting the latest and greatest. And per capita incomes are a little bit higher than if we were talking about the less or the least developed nations. What are the benefits of global standardization, right? So if you make a Coke, Coca-Cola, if it's the same everywhere, right? Maybe it needs to be the same everywhere. Maybe there's a benefit for that. But a lot of products that you make, there has to be a little bit of local flavor, like Top Ramen. Maybe there's a seaweed, flavor overseas, and it might not be one here. Marketers can use the same approach for developing, promoting, and delivering products and services worldwide, creating lower operating costs and economies of scale in product development and marketing. So if I sell a computer and the computer's the same everywhere, then I don't have to spend as much on advertising, right? Except for translating. I don't have to spend as much on, making certain minor customizations that are just for people. If my product is universal, then I'm great. But in most instances, not in most instances, but in a lot of instances, that's not the case, especially, even with food, you're not going to have a all beef burger, right? I'm talking about the beef burger and beef patty, for McDonald's and Burger King or anybody else if you're in India, right? Certain things change culturally. So certain things that you do have to make changes, but it also depends on what type of market you're in and what you're selling. The ability to develop and invest in unified brands and or company identity throughout the world, along with the opportunity to develop brand awareness and brand equity that give competitive advantage, right? So you have a unified brand, whether you're in Bangkok or whether you're in Los Angeles. My McDonald's burger tastes exactly the same, and that's great. But as McDonald's has found, if you do some, niche marketing to certain cultures, you're gonna sell a little bit more. Product lines that consist of small numbers of global brands rather than a plethora of localized product brands and extensions, along with the cost savings, right? Because what are you really saving here? You're saving costs, because if you have more products, it's more labeling, more branding. And improve efficiencies associated with managing smaller total number of brands, right? And then you don't have to have as many people. But if you have a lot of different local brands, you have to have a brand manager for each one of those that speak the language and understands everything that's going on. Segmentation approach, demographics, right? So you have gender, right? Are you male or female? Age, are you young, old, in between? Distribution, ethnicity, income, right? So what ethnic group are you? How much do you make? Socioeconomic status, what's your actual status, and family size. So do you have 2 people in your family? Do you have 10? Geography, so geographic location, world region, climate, urban, suburban, rural orientation, right? So if I'm marketing something to somebody who lives on a farm, it would be different than if I'm marketing something to someone who lives in the city. Or it could be the same. Maybe the guy in the city and the guy on the farm, regular Coke, just the same. Psychographics, so that's your lifestyle, your attitude, social class. Behavioral, so purchasing occasions, user status, brand loyalty, readiness to buy, and other behavioral patterns that drive customer decisions. So who's making what decision? How are you making those decisions? And then the decision maker, right? Not necessarily the person who pays for something, not necessarily the person who initiates the thought of a purchase, but the decision maker, the person who makes the final decision. So the decision maker is the person who makes buying decisions for which types of goods and services, who influences decisions. So you could be a decision maker, but then somebody else can be an influencer, right? So I'm going to make the final decision, but my daughter is going to be influenced. Like, hey, daddy, I like that stove. That one's so much better, right? So you have a person who's going to make the actual decision, and then you have somebody who's influencing the decision as well. And that's it for chapter 14. Just like in chapter 13, there will be no quiz for chapter 13 or 14. So make sure that you, 1, work on your marketing project, and 2, study and get ready for your upcoming tests, because you have a test where you've already taken a test on chapters 1, 2, 3, 4. That's test number 1. Chapters 5, 6, 7, 8 for test number 2. 9, 10, 11, 12 for test number 3. And then you have 13, 14, and then you'll also have 15 for test number 4. And that'll be it. So hopefully that was short and sweet enough for you. But you shouldn't have too many more assignments outside of your big assignments and tests left over. And we'll sprint towards the finish. That's it for chapter 14, and then we'll be on to the final chapter, which is 15. So as always, I want you guys to have a good day and a great week. And if you have any questions, be sure to let me know. Thank you.